Tvayi mayi chanya traiko vishnuhu vyartham kupyasi maya sahishnuhu bhava samachittaha sarvatra tvam vanchasya chira dhyadi vishnu tvam. Tvayi mayi chanya traiko vishnuhu vyartham kupyasi maya sahishnuhu bhava samachittaha sarvatra tvam vanchasya chira dhyadi vishnu tvam. The verse is titled as the all-pervading reality. In you, in me, and elsewhere pervades the one reality. Tvayi, mayi, anyaha, anyatra. Anyatra is everywhere. In me, tvayi, in me, mayi, in you, and sarvatra, everywhere pervades the one reality. And he calls that reality as Vishnu. A big jolt all to the staunch believers of Shaivite. One big blow, a Muhammad Ali blow. Ayya, our guru of Shaivite movement is saying Vishnu is better than Shiva. Ayyo, what's going on? Being impatient, you're angry with me and in vain. Maya Sahishnuhu. Asahishnuhu means you're impatient with me. Kupyasi, you're angry with me. Don't be angry or impatient because I have nothing else but to speak the truth. You are holding on to your limitedness, your own attachments. So you may be angry because I speak the truth. Make your mind bhava samachittaha sarvatratvam. Make your mind equanimous at all times. Vanchas sachirat yadi vishnutvam. If you are keen to attain that state of Vishnu, bhava samachittaha sarvatratvam. Make your mind equanimous at all times if you're keen to attain that state. Why I'm almost hair splitting each word is because each word has a meaning. And if you start breaking up that words and start examining, it's very beautiful. So wherever you can, you should jot down. Thank you, Ma. You should jot down these words and what these words imply so that you can get the deeper meaning. You know, so again, the message here, even before you get to the verse, it doesn't matter whether you worship Shiva or Vishnu. Now, which camp are you all under? I don't know. So, Arpit, which camp are you, sir?
No camp.
No camp. How can you be no camp?
It is self camp.
Oh, self camp. But that still there's a camp, no?
Just no camp.
Campless camp. Huh?
Campless camp. Causeless cause, campless camp.
Oh my God, we are getting very high philosophic terms. Huh? So yeah, so it really doesn't matter whether you are a worshipper. So look at the objectivity with which Shankaracharya speaks. Here he is a man who is considered to be the, what is he considered to be? Huh? Who knows what I'm talking about or what the verse is saying? SK. Short form, sir. Why such a hesitancy to unmute yourself? SK na Ashwini Kumar da?
No, he just unmuted. I don't know. Maybe he was confused.
Oh, the person, see, we have attunement, others don't have attunement, correct? So,
I think the question is, what's the importance of what is the importance of Adi Shankaracharya? I think he's the one who is the founding father of understanding Sanatana Dharma, is the way I see it. and
Indeed,
propagated it.
Yes. Sanatana Dharma existed from from the Guru, because it's flowing from the Vedic times. But I'm talking more about the role Adi Shankaracharya made for the Shaivism. Any thoughts on that? Because in the context he says Vishnu here, isn't it?
Mhm. No, I don't know.
No,
I don't want to make a guess.
yeah, I'm glad. Yes, Situji.
Hari Om Guruji.
Yes, sir. Hari Om, sir.
His revival of Shaivism during his period is considered, the credit goes to him. Although he was actually called a Smarta. Smarta means who believes in Shiva as well as Vishnu. But the Shaivism got revived during his time.
Correct.
At that time, Buddhism was also dominating, and so he is the one who went length and breadth of the country, set up temples, and revived the Hinduism as well as Shaivism.
Yes, very good. So a little brief about the work of what the great Adi Shankaracharya did. So he's almost construed someone who has founded Shaivism, not really the founder, but someone who's revived and vitalized it in his time, because there was a decadence, there was a drop. Now, a man who upheld that principle objectively says, in you, in me, everywhere is the one reality. And he gives that name to reality as Vishnu. It takes extreme objectivity to see no difference, because obviously the followers looked at it from a very narrow perspective. So to just break those shackles, the job of a guru is to break your limitedness, break free the cocoonness you're in. And all of us are in a little cocoon of our own limited understanding. So here he's saying, he puts it deliberately for us to think and say, it doesn't matter whether it is Shiva or Vishnu, because there is a strong opposition, whether you put your stripe vertical or horizontal. We are also talking of vertical view, horizontal view, but not in that sense. It's not a stripe or vertical, horizontal. Now it doesn't matter which stripe you put. The matter is whether the truth reveals in you. And then he says, you got to, if you want to attune to that, if you want to experience that state of Vishnu, if you want to attain that state of oneness, the key to it is to make your mind equanimous at all times. Render your mind equanimous. Make your mind equanimous at all times if you are keen to attain Vishnu. Means that if there are moments, if you have lost your equanimity, you've lost it. Now the question is how to make your mind equanimous at all times. That would be the challenge, isn't it? And we all realize there are moments where we lose our equanimity. So how to make your mind equanimous? The question is, how many moments are there which are, you may say, sir, my problem is most of the time I'm not equanimous. So how do you address that? So there's a slight, I know there's some concern with a few, I can understand that. So logistical issue, but we'll try to resolve it step by step. So how do you keep your mind equanimous? It happens to best of people in best of situations, isn't it? Have you not seen international sportsmen, getting into an argument because somebody has triggered, what do you call? I think in cricket there's a term they call what is called sledging, isn't it? They sledge and they try to, put you off balance. And the best way, if a batsman is scoring well, and you have to put him off emotional balance, bring him some imbalance into him, and just go and try to unsettle him, and he will lose his focus. Invariably, he'll get out. So it is seen in tennis. You have seen best of sportsmen, literally, banging their rackets onto the ground, to the court, and they've actually broken their rackets, and they get into an argument with an umpire. It's evident. In fact, it's in the best of situations, the best of people find themselves losing their balance. So in moments like this, the importance of introspection will really help you. Remember the exercise of introspection, which is done at the end of the day, where you recap your day's activities. The question is whether do you recall first and foremost that it has happened. So if you can, even if I were to tell you how many times in the day have you actually lost your composure? Would you know? Would you be able to recall? It is your life. How has your day spanned out? Would you be able to recall? Isn't it important that you should know how has your day passed by? Venkatramanji?
Yes, it is important to know how your day has passed by. And ideally, one should maintain a diary every day and note on what are factors of importance for one during the course of the day. It helps you to recall.
It helps you to recall so that you would know what has actually gone wrong during those moments where you lost your composure, isn't it?
Correct.
So recall, we remember of speaking of the exercise of introspection,
Correct.
that what it does is it actually picks up moments where you've actually lost your composure. You're not analyzing it, but you're trying to highlight moments where you've lost your composure, isn't it?
Correct.
So, and thereafter, once you know areas where you have actually found where you lost your composure, that is when you got to start focusing later on. Not at introspection. Start focusing and examining those areas. What caused that mental imbalance? You've got to focus on that incident. If you're able to do that things become clearer. There's certain clarity. So the intellectual awareness comes in. The fact that you have lost your control is because the intellectual clarity was not there. So the process of introspection and backing up with an analysis only helps you to bring in a certain amount of, it raises the level of awareness so that similar or same incidents don't appear again, don't repeat itself. That's the first thing you got to do. And the second thing you got to do is whenever these incidents happen, you must try to contain the damage to that moment alone. I hope you follow what I'm saying. Firstly, you need to identify areas which is moments which you have lost your balance, and then analyze it. So you're going to that particular experience, that particular moment, and trying to bring in some level of awareness. Second is you need to ensure that you contain the repercussions of your mental imbalance to that experience alone. Now, what do I mean by this? It's not that I'm asking you to interpret what I'm saying. We're just trying to understand whether you understand what I'm saying. You need to contain the repercussions of your mental imbalance to that experience alone. What do I mean by that? Kamalji, what do I mean by containing the repercussions to that unit experience alone?
Maybe what I can understand, because I obviously didn't attend your previous classes, but I feel that probably we should not tie to that and let it go, and so that in the so the repercussions are to that experience only. We don't carry that forward mentally to present events or future events.
Correct. So there is this quality that we all need to embrace, that there are events of past. Past has certain consequences. You have experienced certain things in the past, but the same thing shouldn't continue in the present. So that capacity to keep the mind in the present and not to allow the past to affect the present, which is a very difficult thing to practice. And everybody has this issue of not allowing the past to affect their present. Very, very difficult, very difficult. And I must confess, I must be very, very honest with you. I'm not trying to impress anyone here. There's no need to, but I say I've never had the problem in my life. And when I say that, life has many, many experiences which unfolds different aspects. Life tests you and challenges you in many ways, but I've never had that the challenge of disconnecting my past. So I don't carry memories of past, and yet I remember every moment of my experience of my past. It's very refreshing to think of them, but I don't live in them. I always try to live in the present. I never had the challenge of living in the present. There's nothing about me. I'm saying the knowledge is very much possible. It gives you the capacity to live in the moment. So you should not allow the past to affect and spill over the present experiences. So if at all you have that agitation, try to limit it to that moment alone, if you can contain it. And how do you achieve that containment? It's like even Sriniji, I can only think of that movie, that famous movie Titanic, which they have so beautifully captured in that movie, and when the ship was hit by the iceberg and the water started seeping into the ship, one of the first things they do, and that movie actually showed it so beautifully, but it is just general knowledge. The moment a situation like that happens, what do they do?
They drop the rescue boats and get the people who are, young, and the women were the first ones who were asked to get onto that as much as they could.
I know I've reminded you of the movie you must have seen multiple times, but I'm not talking of that. I'm talking of what is done when water seeps in. The first technical thing, what they did try to do.
Oh, they close the chambers. They lock
They lock the chambers which are flooded so that they contain the damage. If they don't, I don't know what to call them. They are vacuum tight, so there is no seepage, isn't it? So when the doors are shut, I don't know. Do you know? Are there any specific terminology for those doors or for this? I don't know if there's a specific term.
It's called battening down the hatches.
Oh my God, it's too complicated. I tell you, I got into an unfamiliar territory.
No,
in the
Guruji,
dams,
there is
sluice gates and dams apparently. That's what I hear from Venkatramanji as well. Yes, SKG?
There is a very strong parallel, as you were talking to this. in the game of golf, where
I knew why
I
he
had
didn't come in yet.
I had not the most fun weekend when I had to participate, and we had cold rain. I couldn't feel my fingertips. No excuse. Those are all peripheral excuses. But it is a very strong thing that when you have a bad hole, people react. But then you got to forget the hole and move on to the next one and say, that happened last, and think about the next hole. And the moment you do that, you generally come back in the game. Generally come back.
Absolutely. It is actually so important and essential to carry on with whatever you're doing in life. You could have had, as you said, a bad hole, or you could have had an argument with someone in your office, and then you have to. Your day is packed with many critical meetings and many decisions to be taken, and it's not necessary everything goes your way. You had a disagreement with your colleague, or with your partner, with your director, or your team member, and it just unsettled you. But the next meeting is as important, that you got to take it up. You got to ensure that unrest which has caused that experience is limited to that experience. So the past is forgotten, and you've got to move to the next experience as if it's a fresh experience. And that depends on, only one aspect. What does it depend on?
You got to forget that. You just have to forget it. Switch it off.
Yeah. Yes, you can say that, switch it off, forget it, but it depends on what?
Intellect. Right?
It depends on your intellectual strength to snap the past. And if you don't have that intellectual strength to keep the mind in the present, and since the mind always is way too powerful than our ability to handle it, we know we should not do it, yet the mind switches and goes into the past. So and that capacity to keep the mind in the present is known as, what's that simple English term? We're all too high-flown philosophers, but simple English term which says the capacity to keep the mind in the present action is known as? I know, that's what I'm saying. All high-flown philosophy will come. Mindfulness, objectivity, all of that will flow. That's why I said simple term. Kamalji, you are excused. Huh? I am not talking of you. They are all many Brihaspati's here amongst us. So they are also thinking like that. Brihaspati means too much of wisdom, too much of knowledge they have. Focus, not focus, Shraddha, the power of now. My God. It is, yes, the power of now, but it's not. What is that what is that word? The capacity to keep your mind in the present is known as concentration. Concentration is the capacity of the intellect to keep the mind in the present moment. Are you concentrating? Where are you? Where's your mind? Oh, sorry, sir, I was just still pondering on something else. Your mind is off the moment. Even this an hour and a quarter class, congratulate yourself if your mind has not left the boundaries of this classroom. I will be surprised if anybody out there says, sir, I have heard you every word. I've been with you every word. I've been alert. I've picked up. And my mind has not left this classroom. I'll be surprised if anybody says my mind has always been here. Irrespective how interesting the class is or how boring. In fact, you will be challenged if you have kept your mind in the class is a most boring class. The guru is not in his, what do you call them? He's not in his essence. He's not himself. He's something not right with him today. So he's not himself. So he's just saying, he's going through a mechanical aspect of teaching. Most boring, scratching your head and you're seeing the watch every 5 minutes. And when is it going to end? That is the moment actually where you're able to concentrate. If things are very enterprising, engaging, you're all drawn in, you're glued in, that is not concentration. In fact, you're not keeping your mind is fascinated with what's going on. So nice, what's going on? So your mind is glued. It is not concentration. It is mind is getting carried away. So concentration is, so it's like driving on a very deserted stretch of a road where it's a freeway. There's no traffic. There's no traffic light. There is no need for you to be alert. The question is, how alert are you? Vis-a-vis traffic, driving on a traffic which is difficult to explain in words. Chaos is being very charitable. It is, no, I don't want to get into that. That's my weakness, you know. So sometimes I get very annoyed at that. So how is it difficult to concentrate in a stretch of a road where there is so much happening? You are forced to concentrate, not just your 5 senses, mind, intellect. You got to bring your 6th sense also. Yeah. So what's the big deal concentrating there? So if you want to test your levels of concentration, apply yourself into something which doesn't interest you, and then see whether you're able to apply yourself in it. And that depends entirely on the intellect. This is what I'm saying. If you love to do something, you may not be under your, it may not be under your control. Ramji, am I making sense? If you do something which you like, it's not necessary you're concentrating.
Yes, Guruji. Uninteresting subjects only you need more effort to concentrate. Yeah, definitely.
So when your mind doesn't cooperate, are you able to keep the mind in its present job? Isn't it?
Yeah, that's very difficult, especially if you're attending some uninteresting event. Yeah.
But if you don't concentrate, what happens to the work? The work becomes?
The work, you feel that it is longer than what it is, and
Yes.
you don't absorb anything out of that. You don't pick up anything from there, and your mind wanders in other areas, and so you might even actually show many symptoms of boredom and then get caught sometimes. Yes.
Yes. Action becomes ineffective. It becomes impoverished. It becomes deflated, isn't it? It doesn't give you the desired result. So many people have this problem is they're sitting at their desk, they're sitting at the systems, but their mind is not where the hand is. Wherever your hand is, your mind must be there. You know, if I'm doing this, my mind must be here, not roaming around everywhere. Okay, so the point we are saying, wonderful, Ramji. So the point we are saying, second point is ensure you contain the damage to that experience alone. So when you move on to the next experience, you must have a freshness to it. So don't allow the past agitations, the ripple effect to affect your next course of action. Like SKG said, that if you hit the golf, if you hit a wrong hole, is that what you describe it, you know, and you miss the hole, doesn't mean the game is lost. You can still come back, but you have the capacity to just to face the next ball, you know. In cricket, you don't allow it to affect, live in the present. Second, and thirdly, you got, and how do you enhance that is to step up your efforts in increasing the study and reflection. When you start reflecting on the general truths of life, you start reflecting on the higher values of life, it gives you that necessary intellectual strength. You're developing your internal immunity so that the intellect is able to handle with challenges which could be far more demanding in the future. It not only helps you with what current challenges you're facing, and life could have much more challenges. You'll be able to handle all of them far easier So in this, what I've said is like, if I have, let's say if I have a blister that comes here and a blister that comes there, what I do, I can take a balm and apply the blister and cure it. That is the immediate treatment. And the immediate treatment is akin to introspection, the immediate exercise you should do, and start trying to contain the damage to that particular thing. So blister has come, you apply a balm, you apply that. But 2 days down the road, 3-4 more blisters come on your back and on your feet, and it starts appearing everywhere. Then you go to a doctor, and doctor says, I think something is, there's some infection in the body. That's the reason you see these symptoms. You need to be put on an antibiotic course. So he gives you 10 tablets and says, take these tablets for next 5 days and come back to me and tell me how has it helped, what is the symptoms have reduced. So that is an internal transformation. You're cleansing your internal system. One is putting a balm on the surface. Second is to go through a cleaning system within. That is time consuming, but you also got to put a balm. So the balm on the blister is, RPG, putting a balm where you have the symptoms of blister is akin to
this thing of containing it, limiting it to that area.
limiting that area.
You get beyond.
But first is to identify which is the area that needs to be contained. And how do you do that? Introspection, sir.
Oh,
Isn't it?
yeah.
Introspection helps you to identify areas which needs to be highlighted and checked. So that is important. It's not that you should be unmindful of how your day has gone, where you have gone wrong. You should know. It's important. So don't miss that last 5 minutes exercise, scanning your day's activities. So you can pinpoint and then try to see if you can contain it. Those are the immediate measures you got to take. And then the long-term measure is, the doctor says you have to go through plasma treatment. What is plasma treatment? You keep hearing that. What is that plasma? I'm not talking of your plasma TV, RPG. Huh? What is the plasma treatment, RPG? You heard of it?
No, I mean, I've heard of it in different contexts. I know that there's plasma treatment with COVID and,
yes, in the current times, yes.
Yeah. So it I don't know the medical benefit of doing that though. I know it's a more acute or extended type of treatment.
Mm-hmm. So it is something like going through a certain it is more of transfusion, isn't it? You is it not? Or I'm lost. Anybody can clarify? The doctors are not here. GB K. Raoji will give his medical knowledge to us.
The blood which is taken from the body and they make it as a sterilized, that type of they do treatment, they inject that to the body. For the people who had corona treatment is over, their blood they take and use the inject into the other body, but that is not sure today what they are telling. But other plasma is the therapy which is done for many areas where they say the blood is their own blood or others' blood is all depends upon the doctors.
Correct. So it is more of a much internal transformation. You're trying to bring about an internal change, which I've just said is like an antibiotic course vis-a-vis applying a balm. So these must be the twofold path we must take to life if we want to attain the state, Raugaru, as the verse says, to keep your mind equanimous at all times. Because we remember, we keep saying this, and the fundamental principle we got to learn with reference to equanimity. All right. Wonderful, GB Raugaru. Vijay Raghavanji, if I can ask you, what is the fundamental principle we all got to remember with reference to whether balance or imbalance.
Pranam Guruji.
Yes, Namaskar.
Balance comes when we look at things for what they are using intellect. And moment the mind starts playing and takes us away from being objective, we get imbalanced.
Perfect. So are we not right to remember it is not the external world, but it is my wrong relationship with the world that causes an imbalance, or it causes balance? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Guruji, I would like to just share one example which I was thinking about, which we go through, most of us, all of us go through thousands, if not millions of times in our lives.
Yes.
Whenever we have a disagreement or a problem with, especially with another person, and if there is an issue, first, if we isolate the issue and not the person, and keep the person into the equation, we are able to deal with it much better. Now, the moment we include bundle the person along with the issue, the problem, then we start going backwards and saying how else we had any other interaction with the person. Then that start taking Vishwaroop, and then the issue is already forgotten. And all our opinion, our judgments to solve the problem at hand, it gets totally colored, and we get more and more agitated with our own self-pity and insecurity, and rather than the issue. And another problem would be we would also be reacting, keeping this in mind, and possibly losing relationships. And you get into an unreal world where you are not being productive.
Yes.
Yes. This happens
Absolutely.
in meetings hundreds of times, all the time. I mean, it depends on who says it, not what he says.
In fact, you should be surprised if it doesn't happen in a meeting. Something has not gone. Something has not gone right in the meeting today. Why? Everybody was in agreement. There was no disagreement. That is a rarity, isn't it? You're absolutely right. In fact, so in the philosophical terms, in fact, as Sidhuji also has commented, in philosophical terms, we say you hate the sin, but not the sinner. So you don't bring the personality into the equation. You got to bring the difference of opinion. So if that needs to be dealt with. Is there any truth in it?
There is a famous example, Guruji, is that it's a proverbial, possibly spoken for decades, about people used to queue up, at pipes, water pipelines, taps, and then gather. So yes, when somebody does something out of turn, the fight starts. The fight is never about that. Why did you come and then stand in front of me and cut the queue? It will start, and then it will go to their forefathers and everything, and the fundamental thing would be forgotten, and it degenerates to such levels. I mean, so it was a famous example in Tamil. So, I mean, this is what we do all the time. I mean, most of the time we do that. We forget what it is. And it's very, very counterproductive in working life.
Absolutely. They are called Atma Hanaha. In Sanskrit, it's called Atma Hanaha, means self-suicidal actions, self-destructive actions. So unless until you are able to separate these two, rightly said, very rightly said, that you should not get in, don't personalize it. The problem is we personalize it, and then we get into a situation. Right? So whatever be the reason, whatever be the cause of your imbalance or balance, remember it is not the external factor, it is within me. This is the fundamental principle we got to understand in life. It's not, peace is not external, nor sorrow is external. It's all internal state. So it arises because of not the world, it's because of my wrong relationship with it. And as long as you shift the focus from the world to within, a fair chance. So why are we told to shift? Because you have a control over your mind. You have no control over anything other than yourself. So there's a fair chance you will be able to have a grip over your own expectations and your own mind and your own anticipations. It's not what the world is, what the weather is, what the government is, what people are, what their egos are. But if I'm able to manage myself better, the chance of keeping yourself equanimous is very, very great. Because it's all about the contact with the world. And the contact comes in whether you're able to establish it with right assessment. We keep talking that. So in a practical sense, to keep yourself equanimous, first point, understand it's an internal state, not contributed by external factors. An internal state so that you have a control over the state of your mind, and that depends on your right contact with the world, and that depends on your ability to rationalize, use your intellect, take stock, and establish a right contact. Most chances are you will be in a sane situation. You will not allow anything out there to unduly affect you. It could come and ruffle you, but instantly you get over your balance. It's like at times when we all have driven two-wheelers, there are moments where suddenly you sort of lose your balance. But quickly, if you are alert, you don't fall every time you lose your balance. Don't be. It could be over a hump, or it could be something out there that puts you off balance, but you have control. You don't have to fall. So I don't know, what are the steps I said? What are the steps I said, Harishji? First, I said, remember that balance or imbalance is an internal state, a state of your mind. Second, I said, it is not, when you say it's internal, it's under your control, because you have no control over anything other than yourself. You have control over your state of mind. And third, I said that happiness or sorrow arises because of your contact with the world. Then fourth, I said, ensure you make the right contact by making a right assessment, what you're dealing with, whom are you dealing with, what are you dealing with, so that you don't have mental disappointments, you don't have mental accidents which put you off balance. If you take these simple steps into account and bring in that awareness at every stage, every experience before you walk into, I tell you, you will have a fair chance that your mind is in your control. Fair chance you will keep yourself equanimous. So I'm only trying to give a sense of applicability to this particular verse, because the verse says, if you're able to keep your mind equanimous, there will be a time where you will invoke Vishnu. No, I'll explain this with an example. Before I say that, I think, let me take up what Harish and Reddigar also want to say something. Begin with Harish. Yes, please.
Good morning, Hari Om Guruji.
Yes, Hari Om Harish. Yeah.
Guruji, you mentioned that peace and sorrow is not an external, but is due to our wrong relationships in the world. Guruji, you have mentioned about our balance and imbalance and the peace and sorrow. You mentioned about wrong relationships, that we have wrong relationships with the world. But does that mean that, I mean, taking the ego out of context, but a matter of fact, when we say wrong relationship with the world, does that mean that we're at fault or we did something wrong? Or we are letting ourselves, we are allowing them to trigger our reaction?
Either way, I think both are the same, because you are wrong in, when you say wrong relationship, there are two factors here. It's you and the world. Am I right?
Yes.
So do you agree to me that to a large extent, you can't change the pattern of the world?
Exactly, correct.
You can only present your views to people. You can only present your views to the government. You can't change beyond a point unless until they bring about a transformation within, isn't it?
Yes. Yes.
So to a large extent, you understand the world has a pattern of its own. So
yes.
Given that the world has a nature of its own, I have to deal with it day in and day out. You living in Hong Kong, you know what is the Hong Kong government. You know the political scenario. You know the weather. You know the culture. You know the lifestyle. You know, having born and brought up there, you know what is Hong Kong? I do not know. I would have been a tourist at some point of my life, but I don't know how the lifestyle is, what are the value systems, and what are the ethics, what are the practices there. So if you have to deal with it, is it not necessary for you to know what it is and adapt your lifestyle, your life to what the challenges are there or what situation is?
Yes.
Therefore, it is not the world, but your relationship with it.
Okay.
So if you understand that, you will come to an understanding that happiness is my creation, sorrow is my creation. It is not contributed because the world is being favorable or unfavorable. The world is neither favorable or unfavorable to you. The world is neutral. It is all by itself. It is its nature. The world out there is not designed to cater to you, Mr. Harish. So it's not that at times it behaves according to you or doesn't behave according to you. It is not meant to cater to you alone. So what makes us believe that the world must fit into my mental framework? So we are fundamentally wrong in expecting the world to fit into my frame. I'm going with the frame. You're not going with a picture to the frame shop. You're going with a frame and say, please fit that picture. The shop will say, sir, your frame and the picture don't match, sir. The picture is too big and the frame is too small. It doesn't fit in. And I can't trim the picture because the picture will lose its charm. You've got to bring a bigger frame to fit the picture. So you got to learn to adapt to what the picture of the world is. Don't go with your small picture and say, let the frame and let the picture fit into the frame. We are wrong in our thinking. You've got to learn to have the frame to the picture, isn't it? And the picture is the world. Sorry.
Which means you are trying to say, when you use the word wrong relationship, you're basically saying that we fail to adapt to the scenario or circumstance or situation. It's our adaptation that fails us, not the actual relationship per se.
Now, isn't the actual relationship based on adaptability?
Yeah.
Isn't the actual relationship based on your capacity to deal with the situation? Sir, you are dealing with your life partner. You have lived with her for 20, 30, 40 years. Okay. The person whom you're married is not the same person now, isn't it? She has changed physically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, she has changed. Is it not necessary for you to understand what is my wife? How has she changed? So that I understand what she is, so that I can deal with her. I can understand her emotions. I must respect her emotions. I must respect her situation and deal with her correctly. I can't expect her to be what she was 5 years ago to what she is today. Who is wrong? Are you, or would you blame your wife? I would say I am to be blamed if I have to expect my wife to be different than what she is. She is what she is. That's her nature. She's changed for the better or for the worse. That doesn't matter, but she's not the same. So I need to know what she is to keep adapting to create a harmonious relationship. The onus is on me and not on her. I'm talking to you, I'll advise you. But if I'm talking to her, I'll advise the same thing to her. I'll say the onus is on you, not on your husband. So if two people have this attitude, it is heaven on earth. If one person has attitude, there will be no friction, because you need two hands to make a sound. If there's only one hand, there's no sound possible. But if two people are harmonious, it's like a railway track. They'll never come in conflict. They give a pathway right to your destination. It's a beautiful, harmonious journey. I repeat, if two people have this understanding, there's a harmonious relationship. If one person has it, there is no friction. If both of them don't have it, it is like collision, head-on collision. Every time you get into a relationship, it's like a head-on collision. Therefore, I said the first fundamental principle, it's not the world, it is myself. Peace and happiness, it's within me. It comes about because of my wrong relationship I have set with the world. And if we are able to put these principles every step of the way, I think there's a fair chance your mind is equanimous, your mind is balanced. I do not know of any other miraculous way you can keep your mind equanimous. If there is any other solution, please give me. I would want to learn something today. But the Shastras are giving this, have given this. So frame these principles and hang it on your wall, Harish. Keep it as a screensaver for yourself. It reminds you every time you switch on the steps, simple steps.
Guruji,
Is that okay?
yes, Guruji, very well understood. Thank you. And but just as you said, the onus is on me to understand the world. But then, Guruji, when I'm interacting in the world, whether, like you said, it's a spouse or work or whoever in the world, there is an expectation by them from the world towards me and expecting to be a certain way to adhere to their way of thinking. And as the other person changes, I also change. So there are constant demands on me to be a certain way too from the world sometimes. And they say, oh, you have changed. You're not the same person. You're different. What's wrong? How do I then, in terms of that ability, how do I throw back that ball back in that sense in a responsible manner? Because just as the onus is on me for the other person or whoever it is, the other person has the same expectation of me, unrealistic expectation of me, so to speak, or whoever
It is his problem to deal with it.
Okay.
Your peace of mind is in your control. If somebody has a problem with you, let him deal with it. My question is, do you have a problem with him or her? See, you can't go about telling how good you are when somebody doesn't like you. Can you do that?
No, absolutely.
Somebody hates you for some reason, and that's his problem why he hates you. You can't go and tell him, I'm a lovely person, everybody loves me except you. You can't do that's his, let him resolve with it. But if you're working as a team, it's important you communicate that there is an understanding. And you can only communicate if you bring in resonance into the team. Do you bring in friction or do you bring in resonance? So you can only bring resonance by trying to go along with the world. If I want to swim effortlessly, I got to flow and swim along with the water current, isn't it? If I swim against, what will happen? Then extreme resistance. And I'm not going to, however strong a swimmer am I will not be able to swim against the current for long, isn't it? I could be a very weak swimmer, but if I'm swimming along with the water flow, along with the current, it becomes very easy, isn't it?
Correct.
So go along with the flow first. Let your actions be acceptful for what situation is and let it resonate with the team. Like when every day work brings many challenges to take this Wisdom Foundation forward, to take our efforts forward. If there's a challenge there, I need to go along with what the challenge is, isn't it?
Correct.
And then find a solution. If there's any solution on the table, if there's something that can come out. But I can't bulldoze it and say, no, I should not do that. Okay.
Yes, Guruji. Thank you. Thank you so much for the clarification.
Most welcome. Most welcome. Yes, Reddy Garu.
Pranam Guruji.
Namaskar, sir. Yes.
With respect to the point when you say that when we go through this emotional turbulence, how to contain the damage of that, it is not going to have a cascading effect on the next moment of events, which generally we carry forward that. I think in my view, I put across some of the practical things. Like one is immediately once we go through the turbulent moment and misguiding the mind to take it in another direction. Means bringing the intellect very strongly present in that, saying that we gone through that particular pain, whichever maybe the reason could be, and try to divert that. Like people say that chant the mantra or take that other opposite view of other thought, bring into that, so that you are totally diluting what is went wrong for a moment's back. So you're trying to bring in a counter force to that, so that you have been diverted and you have been focused on the second other part. There's one area of where I sometimes succeeded in practicing. Second is bringing in a deep breath. So where we can able to let out the feelings, what we gone through. So there's one more area. Third, and trying to bring some amount of silence to that particular area, so that no more arguments, no more. So listen more and speak less. Maybe some of the practical tips, most probably to really put that damage is contained. This could be my personal perception.
It is, in fact, all these practices could help, but these are all, I'm sure you will understand and appreciate that these are all temporary measures. Take a walk, switch off, or breathe, or chant a prayer, or any other quick fixes that are offered as solutions. They don't address the root cause of the problem.
But the practicing of the same, Guruji, will not be a stage. At least to curtail, you are applying the brakes very momentarily and moving towards the direction of trying to take control of mind. Maybe may not be at a time.
But we are trying, you could, if this help you, you should do that. But that by itself is like saying, I'm not a good driver, and every time I'm driving, some people who don't have that manual where you have this manual gear, and if you don't, and people who are not used to that and not perfect, you find there's a jerk constantly,
When there is imbalance between your clutch and
the scripture is trying to tell you to drive smoothly. You're having hiccups of life every moment, then I'm permanently doing pranayama, or I'm permanently doing chanting, because every experience there will be a hiccup or a challenge here and there, you see. So you must have a japamala on your office desk. Every time when you say keep doing japamala, every time you say Om Shanti goes off, it's not that kind of, they are all measures you can take just to help you offset a certain imbalance, but we're trying to tell you how not to get into it. So your staff, your management, your team. You should have clear assessment of what they are, what they bring, what their pros are, what their cons are, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. So when you deal with them and you've known that fellow for day in and day out, how can you still have wrong expectations?
Definitely.
Who is to be blamed? That person or me? I need to know exactly what that person brings to me. Okay, I'm not surprised. So you would not, in the future, you would not give that kind of task to that person. This person is not capable of it. We'll stop. That person only comes to me with reasons why it's not done. I remember a very good friend who used to often tell this to me. He says, tell me what you can do. Don't tell me what you can't do. In any work, tell me what you can do. Don't give me reasons what you can't do. I can give you 100 reasons what you can't do, but tell me what you can do. Then we mean business. Do you mean business? You want to get on with this project? Can you execute it? If you want to execute it, think like a man of action and act like a man of thought. A beautiful saying. Think like a man of action and act like a man of thought. SKG. Write down SKG. Think like a man of action and act like a man of thought. What it means is you got to translate your knowledge into action. So what you can do, what you cannot do. So don't tell me what you cannot do. I have a project in hand. I can't do this. Don't tell me that. Can you do it or not? To what extent can you do it? You are a man of action. Full stop. Including, this is what the spirit yesterday evening, Harishji, across the table, did you not say this? In my in own words, when I say this, my thinking is not what can't be done. My thinking, it can be done. When we come with obstacles, we will handle it. But thinking should be, it can be done. It should be done. Oh, it can't be done. This kind of, and then you're not with me on the project. The thought is not there. Isn't it, Harishji? Didn't we think in those lines? So most of us will have, from what the discussion has transpired, but most of us will agree that there are moments which take us off balance. So scan that activity and bring in this steps to clarify what caused it, where have you gone wrong, what alignment you need to do to your expectations or anticipations within. So if you do that, you'll be able to address what is causing the mental imbalance, not addressing. One is to address the after effects, that you don't allow it to ripple effect into the other experiences, but you will address the cause which is causing it. Because you could have, I know people who have who were married for 50 years, and that there's a, every time there is an argument every day. Come on, you've known each other for 50 years. Can't you understand who your partner is? I can't come to terms with it. You know, how can you go on having that difference? And once you have achieved that state of mental equanimity, your mind becomes like a sheet of water with no ripples. You can see your reflection. So seeing your own reflection in a placid pool of water, a lake which is still and water is clear, when you look into the water, you can see your reflection. But with the same lake, you throw a stone and the ripples are there, your reflection appears distorted. So you want to realize the self, you need the mind which is to be equanimous. So seeing your own image in the waters is self-realization. You want to attain realization, you need to have the mind equanimous. It's in a contextual sense, I'm saying. Don't take it literally and say, in fact, you need to transcend the mind to attain realization. That's the right context. But I'm saying to attain that perfect state of mind. A perfect state of mind is required to bring about what, Rajima? A perfect state of mind is required to bring about
clarity, Guruji.
to bring about clarity. Yes.
Peace within.
Peace within. Equanimity is required to
see reality all pervading.
Ultimately to see the reality. Even to do simple things in life, you need that equanimity. And to do the ultimate thing, which is to realize the self, also you need that equanimity. So all what we have done is given essential steps and tools what you could do achieve that end. Okay. So what we have actually done today is we have translated the philosophy into applied philosophy. This is the difference. This is the effort we taken to see how it can be applied. Otherwise, to explain the concept is not difficult. It doesn't take long. But then to see the applicability is the actual exercise the satsang helps us. Okay. We'll come back to the text. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.